summer of 1990, near Buckystown, Maryland, something remarkable happened. With help from the Rotary Club of Friendship Heights, the Washington Quaker work camps brought an international group of volunteers to the Maryland Sheriff's Youth Ranch. Here, they would build a much-needed outdoor sports facility to serve the ranch's residents. The Maryland Sheriff's Youth Ranch was founded by Maryland law enforcement officers to provide a safe haven for abused youngsters. It offers them the personal attention and love they need and gives them the knowledge that they are not throwaways, but important members of the community. The Washington Quaker Work Camps is based on work camps created after World War I to help rebuild devastated areas of Europe. Their efforts include volunteer weekend work camps, whose work ranges from operating soup kitchens to renovating homes for the elderly and building shelters for the homeless. It is headed by Harold Confer.
We planned the project and we recruited the young people, and it came together in an amazing way with 14 volunteers from 6 different countries living and working at the ranch and working with the young people of the ranch to create this multi-purpose court, and also to interface with the youngsters as well and trying to turn around patterns of abuse, etc.
They came from Germany and they came from Bulgaria. They came from Spain and they came from Poland. They came from the Soviet Union and they came from the United States. Most were in their youth. One was nearly 80.
Well, Abby Hadley is a very special volunteer. Abby Hadley was 79 years old plus. She sees, and I'd like to put it in her words if I could, that the value of a work camp is in recreating the human community. You reestablish the bonds of the human community over these international boundaries that most of our leaders find so difficult. I think she was a real source of inspiration to not just the work campers, but I think for the boys at the ranch as well.
Their work was helped greatly by what became known as the community of contractors.
The community of contractors is something that's out there in all of our communities, but seldom gets drawn upon except when you find a project like this that asks them to participate. Sometimes we're fortunate to find them. For example, Wilbur Ford came from his business out there to the youth ranch and set up his transit and did all of our surveying just beautifully. And he said while he was there, well, why don't you ask Don Pleasant, who has this landscaping service, if he would be willing to give you a day's worth of Caterpillar and a driver. And not only did Don Pleasant say yes, but he gave us 2 days' worth. Then he suggested also that we talk to Bernie Groves at Genstar and see about getting some free rock or some reduced cost of rock. And in fact, Bernie Groves gave us lots of truckloads of rock, 14 tons. And the word got out, and one of the board members mentioned to Long Fence that we wanted to put a fence around it. Long Fence said, sure, we'll supply all the fencing materials free of charge. And so it all came together where if we had to buy all those materials, it would have been very expensive for the youth ranch. Ultimately, they were almost all donated or donated at cost. We started off with one very dry week, and all the equipment came on time, and we leveled the space, or we put the 2% slope on it that was required, and we brought in crushed rock, and we spread the rock, and we dug trenches and put in electric line and water line out there for a drinking fountain to the court. And then it poured. It poured literally cats and dogs for a week. And we couldn't put down asphalt. We couldn't do anything except build the fence around the court and wait for the weather to break.
To make the most of this downtime, the volunteers offered to help at an inner-city facility.
We took them into Washington to work that morning at Martha's Table, which is a center for producing food that is then distributed on the streets to the homeless of Washington.
The greatest thing was that everybody wanted to go there and make food for the homeless people. It was a great experience.
We do have homeless people in Bulgaria as well, but we don't have Martha's Table and all that stuff. So it was, I felt like I helped somebody.
I don't know how to say it in English, but I felt that I could help the people who don't have what to eat, and I liked it.
They said, we have a lot of homeless and hungry people in Bulgaria, but we regard it as the government's responsibility, not as ours. And it may well be that what they take back to Eastern Europe is a real sense of what the nonprofit sector in a capitalist society can accomplish.
The Soviet volunteers were delayed by travel problems, but they rapidly made up for lost time.
They were always the first ones out on the work site, and they were the last ones to leave the work site. They worked very, very hard. The Soviets designed a wonderful patterned walkway that was one of the things that took up some extra time during that middle week.
We've done it together, three of us. So it's our work. Let it be a memory of Soviet Union here.
One of them remarked at the end of the camp, he said, I never worked so hard in all my life. He said, but then I've never accomplished so much in all my life.
It's a very good step to the peace to work on a playground, and more of that, it was a very good communication with people from other countries.
The main recipients of the volunteers' efforts were still the youngsters at the youth ranch.
For the youth ranch to have the experience of 14 highly distinct individuals coming in from all over the world and building something for them and with them means that they have now a view of the world that is much larger. And if people start giving rhetoric now about, the enemy, these boys are going to think twice, I think, before they accept that kind of nonsense.
One of the boys most affected was Ravel.
Ravel is a very, very inquisitive youngster who was always into everything. And for this 3 weeks, it was a very special time in Ravel's life. He all of a sudden had 14 new friends who loved him in spite of the fact that he was very active and rambunctious. When we came there, gone through a school year in which he was designated a special education student in Frederick, at the end of the work camp he went back to school and they mainstreamed him. And he eventually shows up as one of the 5 outstanding students in his school. And, the only thing that really has been different about Ravel's life, other than his natural curiosity, has been these work campers and the experiences that they included him in and made him a part of their lives for the summer.
Young people helping young people, providing positive experiences that will last a lifetime.
In the person's life, especially young adult life, there is a time when you are really making decisions about how you're going to use your life and the direction it's going to go and the kinds of attitudes you're going to have, etc. And you get into a work camp with 14 volunteers from 6 different countries and work on a problem like child abuse and go away having the kind of experiences that you've had with Ravel and see what's happened to him. And you go away feeling empowered. That kind of empowerment is really what it's all about, because that's what stays with people for the rest of their lives. And the weather did break with about 3 days to go before the closing ceremony. So we had to then bring in the asphalt and put down 2 layers of asphalt and build the end of the court. We were nailing the final boards up on the morning of the celebration that was to occur at noon, and everything got done.
Building this complex sports facility in just 3 weeks was a tremendous achievement, and some felt that the personal relationships developed by everyone involved were equally important.
The children have been very, very impressed when they realize that the people have volunteered and paid their own way here to come and help them specifically. That they're overwhelmed, I think, with people's generosity.
I didn't know that the work will be so hard as as it was, but I'm happy. I'm very glad of the result.
I feel very good doing this because I knew that would be for the boys.
There's a special relationship between us, I think.
I have the friendship of these boys here. of so many people from all over the world.
Friendship, especially friendship, I'll take back home.
It will be very, very sad to leave it.
I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. No.
They all realize that there is still a great deal left to be done.
There's so many children in Maryland that need homes. The state of Maryland sends about 300 children out of state every year because there's not enough homes in the state. So you say, well, I want to try to save them all, but you can't.
I don't mind people who say, well, that's an immense problem and you're not going to necessarily solve the problem, but we will take a stand and we will involve young people in saying, I made a difference. And if I can make a difference, then you can make a difference. And then it starts to snowball. And when people see that that's the way that young people become creative old people, then perhaps they will be willing to donate for those kinds of experiences to happen. It really does depend upon people seeing this as doing something that really no other group is doing. Really training young people to be value-laden adults.
Just to see what happens when people are doing something very positive, and to see people in the Frederick community and the nearby communities, to see the relationships develop among the kids, the staff, the community people. It's just been a wonderful experience.
And the thing that's so moving is to have the people from the foreign countries here helping us provide for our children, and then to get to know them, to say to yourself, how could there ever be a war? Who in the world would want to fight people like this? And you know, they're representative of nations that there are literally millions of people like them.
And I've seen this literally all over the world, where people of vision have taken young people and transformed their lives. And these young people in turn then transform the lives of others. And so it's not hard to maintain your enthusiasm when you see that happening.
Everyone involved in this project can take pride in the realization of a job well done, and the knowledge that with help, this is just the beginning of a beautiful relationship. For information about how you can help, contact the Maryland Sheriff's Youth Ranch at 301-831-8898 or the Washington Quaker Work Camps at 202-374-4881 or write Maryland Sheriff's Youth Ranch, Post Office Box 42, Buckystown, Maryland 21717.